What's up, guys? This is AJ Forbes coming at you on a solo pod today. I have some big news for all of you. I'm a professional football player this spring. I talk about my football career a decent amount here on Bar Sports. Mostly, it's not in the traditional sense. I don't tell a ton of stories about my playing days, but I try to take what I've learned as a player and I apply it to whatever I might be talking about on a show. Uh, what does an athlete's psychology look like? What's it like to be in a game? What do you think about during a game? What goes on behind the scenes that the fans don't see? Stuff like that. Those are the things that you'll usually hear me talk about over the course of a show. However, this is a big enough milestone in my football career, being a professional football player, that I can come out on this platform and really talk about it. I officially signed with this team called the Fishers Freight of the Indoor Football League. I did this back in late October. You might ask yourself, what's the Indoor Football League? I'll tell you here. The IFL is the best arena football league in the world. There's different tiers of leagues. Think about it like Major League Baseball. You have the Major League Baseball, you have AAA, AA, Single A, Rookie Ball, right? The IFL is the best arena football league in the world. The way head coaches explained it to me during the process is that it's the fourth best football league in the world versus the NFL, obviously, followed by whatever order between the CFL and the UFL, then comes the IFL. There are 14 teams located all across the country, from the Bay Area in California to Massachusetts on the East Coast. Each team plays a 16-game regular season that starts in late March with the national championship in the middle of August. This is a different kind of football. Instead of the standard 11 on 11 game that we are accustomed to seeing, it's 8 on 8. There are three offensive linemen, there's a center and two guards, there's a quarterback, and then there are four eligible receivers, whether that be three receivers and one running back, two running backs and two receivers. There's some combination of four eligible receivers. On defense, there are always three defensive linemen, always one linebacker and four defensive backs, usually two corners and two safeties. With it being an 8 on 8 game, the field is also smaller. Rather than it being a 100-yard long and 53 and a third wide field that you are normally accustomed to seeing on Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays across the country, this field is 50 yards long, with 28 yards wide and end zones that are 8 yards deep. On offense, two players can be in motion at the snap. That's not just the lateral motion we're all accustomed to seeing. If you ever watch an IFL game or a Canadian football game, you will notice that receivers are sprinting towards the line of scrimmage as the ball is being snapped. That is not legal in American high school, college, or the NFL in terms of what we do here in football. However, in the IFL, you'll see two receivers sprinting full speed at the line of scrimmage as the ball is getting snapped. There are a bunch of other rules that I can get into on both sides of the ball, but that's not the purpose of this particular episode. All you need to know is that it is a very exciting, high-paced version of football that is insanely entertaining. The Fishers Freight, the team that I signed with, is a brand new team located in Fishers, Indiana, which is a suburb of Indianapolis. Even though they're a brand new team, they have a veteran coaching staff with a great ownership group. The head coach, Dixie Wooten, has won two championships in this league in particular, and he's won two Coach of the Year awards, and he's won nearly 70% of the games that he's coached in. I don't know about you, but I'll take that resume any day. As far as what it took to get to this point, it's been a long road. After becoming an All-American my senior year at the University of Montana, I spent a rookie camp in Seattle with the Seattle Seahawks, where I experienced a sliver of my lifelong dream. My dream is always to get into the NFL, and that's where I got a taste of it. I performed really well, got great feedback from the coaching staff, picked up the playbook really quickly, got the chance to go up against a first round draft pick defensive tackle. That was really cool. Held my own. So most importantly, though, I proved to myself that I belonged on the same field with those draft picks and priority free agents. When I went out there, what I didn't know is that there was only one spot available. When you're in the off season or going into training camp, you are allotted 90 spots on your roster. I believe when I was going there, there was 89 of 90 roster spots filled. Only one unsigned, undrafted free agent was signed from that particular rookie camp. Shortly after my cup of coffee with the Seahawks, I started receiving a lot of intrigue from teams in the IFL, and frankly, I was kind of prideful about the whole situation. Arena football wasn't something that I was super interested in. From the outside looking in, not really knowing much about the actual operations of the IFL specifically, arena football felt like something players at the end of their career participated into just to kind of milk that last bit of glory out of their playing days, right? That's how I thought about it going into it. Me being naive, me not understanding how the IFL operated. And that's really exactly what I saw it as. I saw it as an ending instead of a beginning. Because of that, I expressed my disinterest to my agency, and the conversation really stopped from there. I thought and I believed my agency thought as well that there was a chance that I could get picked up during the NFL preseason and fight for a roster spot then. There's always guys getting cut. There's always guys getting hurt. I understood that, and the fact that I actually got into the training camp with Seattle Seahawks. Showed, could show teams that I was a guy that they could bring in and try to compete for a spot, even if it's on the practice squad. Because of that, I expressed my disinterest to my agency, and that happened there. Training camp came and went. Preseason came and went. Still wasn't on a team. First half of the season plays out, and the phones are still silent. Um, at this point, I'll be honest, I'm pretty bummed out. I'm pretty solemn about the whole situation. This is when questions start crawling out of the back of your head, that those dark corners in your mind, asking yourself, are you sure that you can play at this level? If you're good enough, why aren't you on a team? That's always the thing. So this is supposed to be a merit-based business. If you're good enough to be on a team, then why aren't you on a team? As we hit mid-October, I had a real eye-opening conversation with my agents. My agency is split up. It's kind of unique. My agency that represents me in pro football, they are split up into different departments that handle different leagues, right? So there's agents who specialize um, in the IFL, CFL, UFL, and the NFL. At this point in time, I was almost exclusively working with Aiden Hickey, who is the guy at the Gridiron Crew, who is my agency specializing in NFL contracts. I got a call from Dallas, who is one of the agents who specializes in the IFL. We talked for a minute, and at the end of that conversation, he goes, AJ, you have to understand that if you don't play football within the next year, your playing career is essentially over. And that hit, man. That hit me like a ton of bricks. This was the longest, and still is the longest I had ever gone without playing football. No spring ball, no training camp, no season. It had been over a year since I've put the pads on. It was just me working out on my own, staying ready for whatever door opened up in front of me. But Dallas was right. A new draft class is coming in by the time that this comes out. The combine is over, and the upcoming NFL draft is right on the horizon. But he was right. A new draft class was coming in, and those guys were going to be the ones teams are going to look at and take priority over, not a guy like me who hasn't played a snap in a year. So that was the situation that I was in regards to the Canadian Football League. That was really never an option. And I don't think I would have wanted to go that route anyway. And in the CFL, half of the roster, 50%, has to be Canadian, with the other 50% of the roster being mostly American skill players. The CFL isn't going to quote unquote waste a roster spot on an American interior offensive lineman like myself when they can go out and get an American quarterback, running back, wide receiver, or DB and work with whatever they have left in terms of Canadian offensive linemen. The United Football League, for those who don't know, is a professional league that also plays in the spring. I thought They would be an option at this point. However, they were and still are prioritizing players who have more extensive NFL experience than what I have. They actually had a draft uh, late in 2024 uh, that I thought I was going to be eligible for. However, it was mostly guys who had gotten cut or were on the precipice of getting cut from NFL teams. Um, those are the people that were getting drafted, right, in the UFL draft. When we learned about that, we were pretty pissed off, honestly. We thought that was going to be a doorway into the UFL and into, use that as a stepping stone to get back into the NFL. But unfortunately, that wasn't the case. So between not being on an NFL team and not being a priority for CFL or UFL teams, I was pretty much left in professional football purgatory. That's when the IFL came back into the picture. I told Dallas, remember the agent in at the Gridiron Crew who deals with a lot of these IFL contracts. I told Dallas that if playing arena ball was the best way to get back into the NFL at this point, then I was willing to do that. Uh, I was still prideful and frankly disappointed with how this whole situation went down. I really, and I still do, obviously. I believe that I am more than capable than making it on an NFL roster, being in an NFL organization, for sure, being in, on a UFL roster. You know what I'm saying? However, these were the cards that I was dealt, and I'm still trying to make the most out of the situation that I'm in. I still had this preconceived notion, though, that the IFL was more of an end to my career than the beginning. But as soon as Dallas sent my name out there to different IFL teams, that's when things started to really change for me. Um, I was on the phone every day for about a week, talking to well over half the teams in the IFL, discussing what that opportunity would really look like, what playing for them would be like, what I could bring to the table, what I could do for their team, and then what they could do for me in order to get me back into the NFL. A couple different factors came into play when I was picking a team. First and foremost, I wanted to go to a team that could put me in the best position to get to the next level, whatever that may be. That might be the CFL, the UFL, NFL, whatever it was. That's the whole reason I'm doing this. It's the whole reason I'm playing in playing in the IFL. Uh, of course, I want to be the best player in the IFL because if you're the best player in the IFL, that means you will go on and play in further leagues. And what's really cool is that the IFL understands this. They don't expect you to come in and try to be a career arena football player. A lot of people are, honestly. But they understand that their best players will get plucked and go play at these upper levels of football. And it's cool because they want that to happen so they can promote themselves as a league. Second, as a professional now, money talks. In the IFL, all players have their housing, food, insurance, training paid for. So that takes a lot of the expenses off the table right away. Now, the quality of all of those things is dependent on ownership, and that's what I'll get into here in a second. I won't get into the details of the contract that I signed, but Fishers made sure that I was going to be comfortable while I play for them. I definitely felt like I was made a priority, not only on the phone but contractually. And that was the biggest difference for me so far in this whole process is understanding that I am a professional football player. Like I don't go. I talked to my O-line coach, offensive coordinator, the first time when I was talking to them on the phone. His name is uh, Coach Dixie Wooten the third. That's his name. And so what I was doing is I kept calling him, Coach Wooten, and then he comes back with me and says, "Hey, man, yeah, we're coworkers. You have to, just call me Trey, Dixie the third, right? Trey, third Trey, right?" And I was like, "Oh, yeah. I mean, you're right. I mean, we're coworkers now." That's how that it's a business now. That's how it's done. Uh, Third, it would be nice if I had a good feeling about how the organization operated and the coaches that I was going to be working with over the next 6 months, because that's what the season is. It's about 6 months. Regarding Fishers in particular, The head coach and general manager, Dixie Wooten, he's a true professional. From the first phone call I ever had with him, it really sounded like he was going to make sure that you're taken care of, but he's also going to make sure that we win. Even though that Fishers is an expansion team, this is a veteran coaching staff. His son Trey, who I just talked about, is the offensive coordinator and O-line coach, and I've had nothing but great experiences with him thus far, and I expect that to go forward because I feel like we have a really good relationship. From my conversation between the two of them, I'm pretty pumped up about what we're going to do here this spring. From an organizational standpoint, the owners are all in. That was a major selling point for me as I was making the decision of where I wanted to play. It was obvious as I had these negotiations with other teams that there's a there's a tier of teams that have an ownership that is all in and it will do what they need to do in order to get the best players and win the most amount of games as possible. And there's a team that there's a tier of teams that do not. And it was pretty evident who was who during these negotiations in terms of me signing a contract. Uh, Back to the Fishers ownership group, they just built a new arena. It's brand new. They have these apartment complexes that they built specifically for the team because they also own a hockey team. So the hockey team will stay there until their season ends, which is right when we come into town anyway. So once they move out, we'll move in. And like I said, those apartment complexes, you know, those are all expenses paid. There's no rent, utilities, food, everything. Everything is paid for. Uh, and I'll pop in if you're watching this on if you're listening to this in podcast form, go ahead and look at our YouTube video. I'll go ahead and plug in the view of our apartment complexes so you can get an idea. We're going to be pretty comfortable while we're there. Last but not least, I had to think about my family. My wife and I, we're coming up on our first wedding anniversary coming up here in April, and with marriage comes including her and really every major decision that I make. I brought it up to a few teams as we were going through these contract negotiations, asking what guys usually do when they're married or in long-term relationships and when they go to travel and go play ball, right? A lot of teams said that what guys will usually do is they will just keep their wives back at home halfway across the country sometimes as they go off and play for 6 months or sometimes their wives or girlfriends or whatever they might come out and visit and stay at a hotel for a couple nights but that was really the extent of it. Keep in mind again that this season is close to 6 months long when you factor in training camp. And being halfway across the country from my wife wasn't really something that I was interested in, especially within the first year of our marriage. After multiple teams gave me the same answer, I began to think that that was just the standard operating procedure for teams in the IFL, and that was, frankly, that was kind of disappointing for me, and I was making me a little nervous about what this opportunity would present. But then I talked to Coach Wooten about it. Uh, he told me straight up, bring her along. I'm a better coach when my wife is around, and if you're a better player when your wife is around, I want her here. To be honest with you, with everything else that Fisher's offered, once he said that, I was pretty much all in because he was the first coach or GM to tell me that straight up. So that was a difference maker, in all honesty, for me. By the time this episode drops, we'll be less than a week away from my report date. I'll be driving to Indianapolis on Monday, March 10th, with my report date being the following day, actually. We've already had meetings and installs and everything that we can do without all being in the same room together, we've done. So we're going to be hitting the ground running as soon as this season starts. I've been doing everything I can to stay ready for this opportunity. As I've been talking about, earlier on in this episode, I've been working my ass off, frankly, to stay ready for this opportunity. Whether independent film studies, going on YouTube, looking at, and once I signed the contract, going up and looking up games that Coach Wooten was coaching and to really learn the offense that I was going to be running it. I would watch old Montana games, honestly. just to see what I can improve on and what I can use in my game that would translate into the offense that I'm going to be running here pretty soon. I would go out to my old high school field, Bellevue West High School, um, to go get field work drills in, and staying late night at the gym that I work at as a strength and conditioning coach for all my strength and conditioning training. I've been writing my own program, designing my own regiment, and doing whatever I can feasibly do to be the best that I can as I enter this next stage of my life as a professional football player. And that's a pretty cool thing for me to say, you know. The hardest part about the whole situation hasn't necessarily been deciding where I want to play or learning the install. Those are all things that have been a part of my, life for a long time now. If I'm going to be honest, the hardest thing about this whole process has been the perception from the outside world. And let's be clear, when push comes to shove, I could really give a shit about what people had to say. But a lot of people haven't paid a ton of attention to what arena football is or how I could really explain what the IFL is or who plays in the league or whatever. People are barely able to name, all the NFL teams, and the NFL is the best of the best. So who am I to expect these people that I talk to about this opportunity that I have to really understand what indoor football is all about? So when I say that I'm going to play arena ball, people have the perception that I did when I was beginning these contract negotiations, thinking it was more of an end to a career than a beginning. They would say you have two college degrees, you have an MBA, and the closest thing you've gotten to the NFL is a camp with the Seahawks. Why do you keep going? So let me tell you why I keep going. Football has been a massive part of my life, and I owe a lot of who I am and what I am today to football. Yes, there have been numerous injuries that have put me in crutches, and yes, I have had more heartbreaks in football than I have in my normal life. Uh, but it allowed me to truly understand what it means to work for what you want, how to battle through adversity, and it allowed me to build relationships with people that will last for the rest of my life. It's tested everything about me. Uh, and it's cool as a man or a woman to really test your limits and test what you're really capable of because you don't know what you are or who you are until you test your limits. That's when you really understand who you are as a person. And football has provided that has provided that to me. It's also provided an opportunity to put my family ahead in life. You never know, but I'm probably not going to be that guy that makes 50, $60 million in the NFL where you see the ticker come across on Sports Center and say AJ Forbes just signed a $50 million contract with so and so. You never know, but I don't know if that's going to happen. However, I had the chance to raise the financial floor for my family and allow us to be more comfortable as we go forward for the rest of our lives. I also think about legacy. I think a lot of the most competitive people do. They want to know where they stand in history. But I want my kids to be able to look up their dad one day and feel proud about what they see so that they can show their friends at school and brag a little bit. That would make me feel pretty good that they'd be proud of their dad. Um, I want to make a mark on everything I do, and with the short lifespan of a football career, I want to leave a legacy that has me among the best. After my football career, I'm going to take that same mindset forward with everything else I do in my life. But for right now, I am a professional football player. And if I'm going to do it, if I'm going to be a professional football player, I want to be the best. The IFL might not be a staple in the football world. And frankly, I'm sure a lot of people that I've talked to about this whole thing um, look down on it, look down on arena football. It's almost pity. I don't know. Now they might be happy for me and they see that I'm happy and I'm doing what I want to do and they'll support me. Uh, but they might see it as something like I did that washed up players do when they don't know how to move on from being an athlete. And that's something a lot of athletes struggle with is they don't understand how to move on from being an athlete. Some might make the mistake of even calling it semi-pro. And now there are semi-pro indoor leagues, but this is not what that is. This is true professional football. This is the best chance for me to get back into the NFL, get back into an NFL locker room. I want to be the best. And if I'm going to be a part of the best league in the world, first I have to be the best in the IFL. I appreciate you all listening to this long rant, but I felt like this was something I should talk about. This is a dream of mine, and it's been a dream of mine for a long time. And Barn Burner Sports is supposed to be the player's voice in sports media. And as long as I'm still playing, I'm going to keep giving our side of the story. I appreciate you guys. Hope to see you soon. Anything else that I can give you in terms of what the IFL is, what I'll be doing, I'll try to keep you guys updated as much as possible. But until then, see you soon. Thanks for watching.